Hey, do you sit on the fence?
Sometimes, bro. Sometimes, my man. Sometimes.
Yeah, me too, on some things as well. So, hey, kia ora and welcome to Talanoa Live. This is a special edition of a Yarn Live, all about a future with COVID. And tonight's guest is Te Omeka Morihu, and our subject is sitting on the fence. So I hope you enjoyed our little bit of fun that we had at the beginning. And as always, if I could ask you to please introduce yourself in AFQY styles so everyone can meet the person. And then we'll crack into the discussion about COVID vaccinations and sitting on the fence.
Kia ora e te whānau. Well, a young fella born and bred in Warkworth, just north of Auckland near Puhoi, raised up in a family of 6 siblings. I was the second to youngest, so there's one younger than me out of the 6 of us. Father and mother moved to that area in 1982 when I was born. And this is the Irish side of my family. 1850, they came into the country. 1905, they sort of settled down about 1920s when they registered that house. And so the farm has been there for a long time, going on to 101 years this year. And through my journey, have sort of moved into the tech space and now currently doing a lot of the tech stuff. And one of the things that I'm truly passionate about is my kids, 2 older kids and 2 younger kids. And on my mother's side, she's from the Hokianga up north. And on my father's side, Ngāti Whātua, here in Auckland, Tāmaki Makaurau. Kia ora.
Beautiful. And that is Te Omeka Morihu. So, hey, man, I think this is about the 3rd or 4th time we've had you on for different discussions, but this one's really, really important. And while we had a bit of fun at the beginning with, sitting half on, half off, like sitting on the fence, it's a really serious discussion to be held with probably great empathy around sitting on the fence. And just want to, start by sharing, I think it was your video. It's sitting up there. So 1 second, I'll just keep this up on screen by doing this. And then I can just play the beginning because this is it's got 215 reactions and 68 comments and 8,000 views.
Clock some K's up. Not bad, not bad. We're doing pretty good this lockdown. Tēnā koe, kia ora. Yeah, you, the fence sitter, the vaccine fence sitter. I know what that's all about. I was sitting on the fence too, just till.
There we go. So, as you say yourself, you were sitting on the fence till recently, and that's a great video that takes us through some of your thoughts. And today we want to sort of elaborate on it and share. Imagine there's a whole bunch of fence sitters on the other end of this watching and going, well, what did he look at? What did he think about? Because, of course, we've had Super-Saturday. We've had all of the information. It's been on the news. All this sort of stuff. There's plenty of stuff there, but it's not necessarily what someone's sitting on the fence, how they want to consume or understand it. So, without me trying to second guess, could I ask you to dive in and let's start getting into the subject about fence sitting? What's your story?
Yeah, so let me sort of set a bit of context about myself first, just to give you sort of a frame that I'm coming from, a bit of perspective. So I was the guy that burnt his arm and then on LinkedIn took photos and videos every day and managed to heal myself without traditional methods. So I also come from, there are ways that you can do this. And I did over a 2-week period and, went and saw a nurse and she's like going, geez, you should have done this, should have done that, traditional methods, and I chose not to. So just to give you some perspective, I do follow the current methods of today where we go to the doctor for certain things, but there are some things where I follow non-traditional ways of doing things. So just to set some context. Now, as we move into the vaccine, being a sports person, a person who likes to run and likes to be actively fit and eat and powerlifting and all that kind of stuff, I'm very mindful of my health and what goes into my body when possible. I fail that when I turn up to the KFC line, when I turn up to the McDonald's line, those are the times that I fail it, but I'm just real mindful of my body. So that set the tone by how I was going to approach the vaccine. And for me, the vaccine was like, you can do all the studies and all the tests you want that you want previously, the 50 years and the 20 years, but you're now putting it into human bodies. I just want to wait. I just want to watch. And how I was equating it to all the people at work was when Windows were doing updates, whoever took Service Pack 1, they didn't enjoy it. And you'd normally wait to Service Pack 3. You know, when I'm talking to engineers, technical people, that was the way I was sort of portraying it. Wait till all the bugs are out, when all the issues, all the, slow loading, all that kind of stuff that you don't want to experience. You want to wait to Service Pack 3. So I thought, hey, that's all good. I can wait. But then as we got into this lockdown and as the messaging started changing, and whether it be government messaging or just the words that were going around my whānau, I started to become adversely affected by this. And it was starting to make me question them, you, my mates, everyone. So all those questions start popping up in my head because I could feel that waiting was slowly not becoming an option because of the way that it introduced fear. And in that video, it came down to the fear of my father as the driving thing. But how I got there, I had to get rid of the anti-vaxxers. I had to get rid of the pro-vaxxers. I had to get rid of, I don't want any unvaccinated people with me. And I had to get rid of, I don't want to be near any vaccinated people. And you had to start throwing all this noise out. And when you go to look at the science.org, go to science.org, it's confusing as hell. It feels like you're going to a media website, but it's science.org. And so I couldn't go there. And eventually, what I found out was, as I looked at the arguments of, say, the left and the right, the pros, the antis, I realized that I felt passionate about certain things, but then if you were to put me in another context, I would contradict that exact value. And once I realized that there was a confliction of values, it became simpler for me because I just had to find the value that I hold to because the information just wasn't being served up to me. And beyond the information not being served up, I've been doing sales and marketing for a long time. So I look at messaging, I look at words, I look at the way that you deliver words, I'm watching body language, I'm watching the impact of words, the impact of ideas. And I, as a salesman, am not allowed to behave the way that the government are behaving. I could not get away with that. I would make no money. That's my point of view. To behave that way as a business, we would make no money. And I was just sitting there this is a travesty to humans. We are not this silly. With that kind of messaging, we feel it. We feel that something's not right. We know that you have the best intentions, but as humans, you just feel something. And what ends up happening, and not for me, not everyone, but what ended up happening for me was because of the way that they were coming at me, I was putting up resistance to their pressure. It was just natural resistance to pressure. And so I'm sitting here looking at all these reasons that I couldn't get the information, all these reasons why I don't even want to think about it. And so I go deep into these values, and in these values, I find a lovely old man that has a relationship with my son, one like no other. And I go, look, your fear is enough for me. This is a non-decision. It becomes a non-decision when your fear is in question. I don't really I feel I can take anything. It doesn't bother me. So I went down the path and did it based on that value because I was contradicting myself in too many places. The information wasn't there. And just what was coming at me, it just felt wrong. And then I thought, look, I've got a bit of a big mouth. I've been online for a bit. I just feel like I can do this in a little bit of a better way, in a way that makes you feel like he's actually listening to me. He actually hears me.
Yeah.
Because I think that's the difference. Yeah.
Well, I think that is there's so many parts to pick out of there, and we'll get into them. But the last one was You point about feel like they listen to me. So if you go back to the when the messaging was being pushed and everyone would be feeling it, right? No one feels like they're being listened to when they're getting messaging shoved down their throat, no matter what it is. Do the dishes, because
Yeah.
I said, I'm the dad. You do the dishes. You're like, no, dad. And run
Love
away.
you, Dad, but
Yeah. So whatever it is on any scale, any subject, the more you push someone, the more they push back. And
yeah.
and it's that fact of not being listened to. And I think there's been quite a lot of discussion from various people. And one of the parts of the discussion we had was around feeling listened to, feeling respected. So I'm a bit concerned that there are people that will be, as you've explained it, all this noise getting confusing, and like, how do we understand? Because I think about myself and go, try and run through this like decision tree of you get vaccinated, that means that you, actually you can still get it. Oh, but if you do get it, it's not as worse, and you don't go to hospital, and you don't, oh, but the nurses just got it. So it's like all these things conflict, and you're like, and one moment you think it's making you safe, the next moment you go, what's the point? And you've got to run through the whole cycle again to go, what does it actually mean to me? So yes, I thought it was quite interesting. So I come back to listening. I think they're at the point now where people are having a lot more one-on-one discussions and taking, listening to the person's concern who might be sitting on the fence. So rather than pushing stuff down their throat, sitting and listening. So I think that's part of the new way that's coming out with the new initiatives. Do you know much about those, or read up about them, or seen anything?
No. Or what initiatives are you talking about exactly?
So rather than the Super Saturday, everyone get vaccinated.
Yeah. Okay.
Rah, it's more around setting up the opportunity to sit down and speak with someone, whether that's online, on the phone, or whatnot, but to listen to the person who's got their concerns, to listen to them go through, whether it be looking at values or not sure what's correct information, what's wrong information, but essentially listening and taking a person individually through it, which sounds
No,
pretty.
I know that Ngāti Whātua is doing that. So all my whānau in Ngāti Whātua are having those conversations, but it sort of comes up against the same sort of problem. Like, once again, you go for as much as you can grab with those conversations, and you get so much. And one of the things in my mind, and I see a lot of online people do this, and it's more of a sales and marketing strategy, but it's sort of like, what they have the ability to do as they scale their businesses is they're really able to sort of like focus on feedback and really executing on that feedback pretty quickly. And transparently is the key. And what I mean by that is, say, all the feedback around anti-COVID, COVID this, COVID that, COVID that, COVID that. The resources that are going to be required to provide and get the percentage that we need has to be quite hard to meet all the feedback. And you can understand sort of how any organization, and the government for that matter, goes, oh, that's a bit in the too hard basket. But personally, and this is just personal to me, there are some times in the world where you have to put the right mahi in. And it feels like, and if, the government had definitely, everyone is doing the right mahi. Everyone's doing the right mahi to get us up to the percentage we are now. And we all know the many stories around the 80-20, that last 20% is normally the hardest. Like, we got the big move. Just that last 20, we might have to look at all the feedback that's coming, because they're getting a lot of feedback. Like Sir Ian Taylor, we see his posts. We see his really constructive feedback. It's amazing the way that he feedback and just gives them observations, doesn't try to bias it as much as possible, just give them feedback, and execute on that. Like, someone grab it and go, so Ian Taylor's going like this, have that conversation, boom, maybe we need to execute like that, have a bit of a workshop. That's 3 hours there, but you can't do that at scale with all the feedback. So, you still come up with the same problem, but my heart's sort of leaning that way. If you want to get that 90% double vex, looking at all the other numbers. That's all. Yeah.
One of the things that Syrian Taylor has done really well is, like you say, not biased what he said, and he's even gone into the defence of government when some people have gone probably a bit negative, a bit strong, and a bit incorrect, and he's come back and said, no, to be fair on certain things. So I guess what he's done is, I remember when I was learning to coach rugby, and I still wouldn't say I'm a very good coach, but one of the lessons I got from a great was when you've got to give a player, especially a young player, negative feedback, you've got to give it in a way that they're able to walk away from that discussion with their head held high.
Yeah.
So if you go, you bloody silly, don't you do it, and they walk away like this, then you failed. And this is the same with this situation. Any situation, to be honest, but it just reminded me of that discussion that I had with one of my coaching mentors, which was, a kid has to walk away with their head held high. So a person has to be able to walk away with their head held high. And that's why the government took on Ian Taylor's feedback, because he was making such an approach that enabled them to walk away with their head held high. Therefore, they were able to adopt it. Whereas when people are, attacking and pushing it down their throat and going, you've done this wrong and that wrong, you should do this, and you should do that. Yeah, of course, just like people are resisting, say, the push of Super-Saturday, for example.
Yeah,
the government will naturally push back on the, certainly a too hard basket to try and contemplate working with them. So yeah. But hey, coming back to you, because I wanted to really get into the value that your thoughts give, right, around the process. So you talked at length at the beginning about how there was information, and there was, I think it was conflicting with your values, or you had conflicting values. So sort of like both pressures of both sides, and then you work through those. Can you remember some of the specific values or specific conflicts that were really pushing against each other, and how you worked through them? Just to give looking for examples to give to people out there. So
yeah. For me, it was like, say, with the vaccine, I was saying that I didn't want to get the vaccine because I didn't want to put their foreign stuff in my body. But I'm going to munch up this KFC. I'm going to eat up this McDonald's, like getting down to something that small. It was actually those smaller ones that were more impactful than the bigger ones for me. And
wow.
I can put it simple down to just the way that I look at sugar. Like, my value against sugar is quite big. I feel the impact there. But then over here, I was sort of like going, oh, no. But that value is real strong against vaccines. Like, I'm never going to put that in my body. Yet I'd go and plug all the sugar into my body, And I can't really think of the ones that were going, because I was quite riled up. And so I just knew that was one that I could think about. But there were just a whole lot that were coming through. And I actually felt really small after looking at myself and just like going, I almost wanted to say something like, do you even have values? I was questioning myself that much. I just,
wow.
Yeah. Like, I consider myself a very value-driven kind of person. But then I'm sitting here, and like I said to you, like, just even as a parent, the values of a parent in lockdown, I'm sitting here like feeling bad because I'm not giving my kids the right attention. And what that is influencing is it's going, oh, maybe I need to get the vaccine so we can get out quicker. But then I have a value that goes, oh yeah, but you don't like putting things in your body, so you're okay to stay in lockdown forever. Yet you can see the impact on your kids. You can see the impact on you feeling bad about, not educating your kids or giving them the learnings, because I come from a, era when you got slapped, you got told to do maths. You recited your schoolwork. You got told, like, school was drummed into us. And so I'm learning to be okay with that. But then the time that I'm putting into my daughter is time that I'm taking from work. And then the impact of feeling guilty about not giving work my all, because I should give work my all because I'm the provider of the family. Oh, I should get the vaccine for that. Oh, but I don't want the vaccine. Oh, so as you can see,
great
like,
examples of,
it's just a small part, but like that whole mental game. There's so many facets that are not touched upon by any of the information. Nothing. And so all that information that is going out there, if it's coming at people like me, it's hitting a blank wall, because these are the things that are bothering me. Talk to me about the things that bother me.
Beautiful. That's in a nutshell. I'm just writing the wee message in the comments there, but that's absolutely it. The all the messages that are out there are, say, fact-based about the COVID situation, the vaccine situation, the vaccine as a medicine, the process about, but no one's actually talking about these other problems, which again comes back to that individual discussion: is what are your challenges, what are your conflicts? You've talked, thought some great examples there of the benefit of doing it for your kids versus putting it in something foreign in your body, the benefit for your work versus putting it in your body. And you could probably stack that side up with kids, work, family, Christmas time with whānau, all sorts of things. But then you've still got this, why originally, and for the last, I don't know how many months, or even maybe up to a year now, have been having this belief, I don't want to put that in my body. I'm going to wait till Service Pack 3 comes out.
Yeah.
So now I'm in that personal conflict.
I was talking to a customer, and the one thing that customer wants, he just wants to be able to actually go out and shop for Christmas. That's what he wants. Those are the things that he wants to hear about. How can he do that? And to me, I just went, you know what? I'm sitting here going, I'm not going to have Christmas. I don't actually want to get I don't want to get my hopes up. So I want to keep my mental space sort of low and the so-called real space, because happiness hurts me, because I don't feel I can have that happiness. So why should I have it? Why should I think about it? Why should I pretend to experience it? Oh, but the law of attraction in the universe, whatever you might want to say about that future, at the moment, I'm just trying to not get my hopes up, because I don't sort of want to shatter it. That's another point.
The other side of that, coming back to the kids, is if you probably also can't, because a young kid can't handle or comprehend like an adult. Therefore, it could get very messy if Christmas doesn't happen for a kid, and they start getting the idea that it is going to happen now. Whereas just getting them prepared, and don't change that until it's absolutely certain it's going to. It's probably similar for adults, man. We're on to day 78 day of lockdown, and I don't know how many months that is. It's what, 3-ish months, two and a half months,
two and a bit, 31 days, 61,
30 would be 90. So it's just it's 2 1/3 months. So we're starting to get that stage, I guess, where all sorts of things are happening. The rules of lockdown have changed. I guess people's acceptance levels, and cool for you, mate.
Yeah, sorry, I still got my work phone logged in. Jeez.
That's all right. That's all right. That's pretty late. 7:24. It's not a P1, is it?
Support calls, tech calls, sales calls, all the calls.
Okay. Well, hey, we're just coming up on 7:30, and people will be getting back to. That was the other thing I was going to do, along with the half facing, was the sitting on the fence, was play the Shortland Street music when we went in at 7 o'clock, because that's what I would have been doing at 7 o'clock.
Yeah.
Shortland Street. So yes, and big ups to the writers and the team there, I've got to say. They cover some pretty good subjects very well, some pretty important subjects. So I'm looking forward to how they handle some of the stuff coming out through.
It's lurking there. Surely it'll be lurking in there,
It'll come out there. So with the last 5 minutes, let's have a little think about what's the important things for someone who's sitting on the fence. What's an approach that you might share with them that, if you can maybe break it down into bullet point, find someone to listen to you, talk through your concerns, even if you feel like you go around in circles, just keep going through the circles.
Yeah, just one, have a kōrero with those that you can have a kōrero with, that you feel comfortable with, that are in that vaccine space. Reach out to that cousin that's in that vaccine space, or that whānau member that's in that vaccine space, or that, initiative that's in that vaccine space, that you feel comfortable. Like, there's got to be that element of comfort there. That's number one. Number two, for me, so in my process, was looking at my values, like the deep values. And for me, it was the value of, my father had a legitimate fear around unvaccinated people and how that might impact his life. And I didn't want him to feel that way when he was around me. I didn't want my kids to have that feeling rubbed off on them because he might feel that way. And that's such a big one for me, is the way that our kids feel because of the way that the adults feel around them, around other people, and how that rubs off on them. Because one of the things that we have to be mindful of is, as adults, we are behaving this way. How is the way that you're behaving and feeling rubbing off on those little human beings that are around you, and the things that you say, and the happy or the violent or the fearful or the state that you are in at that time? Because this is growing humans around left and right, and I can say for sure that that is impacting kids. So that gets me down to the values. And then the third one is, when you say a thing to yourself, can you call yourself out, and is that true? Done.
I like it. Can you call yourself out, and is that true? So just coming back to your point around affecting the little ones, and
it's a big point.
I don't have kids, but we have a dog, and I had the most amazing experience. Right, so for a long time, for various things, I've been probably grumpy, but bitter, and just in a really negative, shitty mindset. That's where I start from, morning to night. And having got past that and into a happy space, genuinely happy space, or genuinely, I don't know what you say, level space, walking the dog suddenly become a whole different kettle of fish. So rather than him always fighting with me over dropping the ball or giving the ball, whatever, it was just like, okay, drop the ball. And you'd be like, and it was just, it's almost like he could feel my happiness or my level change.
Yeah.
So coming back to the kids, I mean, like, even if you're having those private adult discussions after hours when the kids are in bed, the way you're behaving and you're not even aware of it is being picked up and read by them. So yeah, really important, I guess, in some regards, that if anyone's feeling any angst about this whole picture, that whether they find an answer about whether they're vaccinated or not, come to terms with something in some way so that you can be sure you're not inadvertently passing off any negative sort of feelings towards the kids that they pick up on, because they're pretty perceptive.
Yeah, they're pretty receptive. They sort of just know on a level that we used to know. Like, if you think about a lot of the things that we said tonight, I felt like we were talking about kids getting angry at each other. Just adults behaving like kids in some ways, to be honest.
No. There has been some pretty childish behaviour on social media, on all different angles. But yeah, it is. I mean, it's humans. I love the point around everything has an equal and opposite reaction, which is from physics, and it's more around, I think, pure physics, not human emotion. But it's funny how much that is true with humans, in terms of that if you push something, they'll resist. Talking about Super-Saturday. So yeah, I think there's a real truth in that. So hey, just coming up on the close of the half hour, what would be your closing remarks? Give everybody something to walk away with from Te Omeka. Like, we've heard your approach, heard the values, but what's the kind of the key thing?
The key thing for me is taking the time to listen and taking the time to have that talk, because staying in here and going around and around and around in the same place, you're just going to end up where you are today. Take the time to open up a little bit, if you can. Open up a little bit. I think it'll do you a world of good with that person that makes you feel comfortable. Yeah.
I love it. That's perfect because, yeah, that's exactly, I think, rumination is, I think, the label for it. But yeah, if people are going round and round in circles in their mind, and probably if there's conflict for them, just like you've talked about, I think it's a natural thing where there's all these different, conflicting things. It just gets heated up, like, boiling away. And then someone walks down the street with no mask and doesn't social distance, and boom. Or whatever the case might be. Someone says the wrong thing on social media, someone says it's the wrong thing, but something related to the subject, and it all. So, with that, my friend, let's let everyone get back to their evening, and thank you so much for all the insights. We've put your post in the comments so that if anyone wants to go and watch your original post, they can get in there and have a look. It's a really good version, but we had a slightly different sort of set of discussions and some different bits. So make sure you check it out. And again, thank you for taking the time to share your approach on where you were as a fence sitter and what you did to make your decision, regardless of what decision other people make. Apply a process, get through it, do something positive. So we'll let you close out with a ka kite anō to everybody in your words, bro.
Mauri ora whānau, mauri ora. Kia ora.
Kia ora.